And joining us right now on the Book Talk segment of the show, great pleasure to welcome best-selling author of a couple of books now. His previous one was a New York Times bestseller called The Disappearing Spoon. His latest is called The Violinist, Thumb and Other Tales of Love, War, and Genius. It's written by our genetic code. And Sam Kean joined us by telephone today. Sam, thanks for being with us. How are you today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Good to have a chance to talk to you. I just found out from the person that kind of puts us on the air together here, your current book, The Violinist, Thumb, is a bestseller already. So congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you very much. We were thrilled to hear that it made the list.
Yeah, that's always, I guess, the goal of any author first to get a book published, and then with a little luck and perseverance to get it on the bestseller list. So you've accomplished two of those goals. That's pretty good.
Readers have really responded to it. I've heard from a lot of different ones that they really enjoyed all of the stories and the history and science in the book. So yeah, it was really gratifying.
And it's, again, for some folks who may not be aware, your previous book and this one really kind of deals with kind of explaining science in a way that the layman can understand. This one in particular about DNA, the human body's DNA, although you do talk about it in all other forms of life. A really fascinating topic. Difficult, I guess, to kind of break down, though, right? We don't really quite understand it yet, do we, the DNA?
No, there's still a lot of mysteries out there to be solved about our DNA. Everything from what exactly all the DNA inside of us is doing to, what DNA can reveal about our history and our past that we still don't quite know. It's already revealed quite a lot of hidden stories about human beings, but I'm sure there's still a lot more out there to be discovered.
You talk in the book, and you got some great pictures of, I guess, some of the early scientists that attempted to study it in a very primitive way that they did it. It's not really that long or that many years of science in it, right? I mean, maybe 100, 150 at most, right? That scientists and medical professionals have been studying this, right?
Yeah, it's really only about 150 years, and even then, the two people who discovered genes and DNA, they were separately discovered. One was Gregor Mendel, the famous monk. The other one was a man named Friedrich Miescher. Both of them actually died pretty obscure and unknown, and no one really appreciated the important work that they had done. They certainly, Miescher and Mendel, didn't know each other, and they had no idea the other existed. And it took a long time before scientists realized and appreciated what they had done. So kind of parallel, but very sad stories to the end of their lives.
Yeah, no, that was kind of interesting. You mentioned a monk, actually, one of the first people to study it. You wonder what, I guess they have a lot of free time thinking and all that. I guess you just decided, let's look at the history of life somehow, right? Was that his thought process?
Yeah, it was Gregor Mendel. He actually loved a lot of different types of science. He was very big into meteorology, and he loved botany, gardening, and he just decided to look at pea plants one year and try to figure out how basically parents pass traits to their children. And he had this amazing theoretical breakthrough. And it's really kind of incredible because Charles Darwin himself studied pea plants, tried to study how pea plants pass traits from parents to children, but he couldn't get anywhere with it. It was only Gregor Mendel, the monk, who was kind of on his own in the middle of Europe, not really in a scientific community, who ended up making the big breakthrough. But again, for 30-some years after he published the work, no one really appreciated how important it was.
And again, DNA, I guess there has been some debate over the years. Obviously, that is, the code that determines, what color hair you have, what color eyes, that kind of thing, but also other genetic factors. But it isn't 100%, right? I mean, if you have certain, doesn't necessarily mean if you have a certain factor in your DNA that you're going to be doing, you might be an airline pilot or something. I mean, there's other human factors, environmental factors can alter that. I guess I'm not explaining it right in the question, but is that kind of accurate, or?
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's your genes and your environment working together to make you who you are. And I think a really good example of that is actually the title story of the book, The Violinist, Thumb. It refers to the story of Niccolo Paganini, who is usually considered the greatest violinist who ever lived. He was playing for kings and emperors and popes in the early 1800s, and people were saying that he had sold his soul to Satan to get his talents, all sorts of stories circulating about him. one reason he was so good is that he had these kind of freakishly, amazingly flexible hands. He could twist them into all sorts of different positions and poses. He could stretch his hands incredibly wide. He could just do things with his hands that other violinists couldn't. And it's almost certain from a modern perspective that he had a genetic disorder of some sort, and that's why his hands were so flexible. At the same time, though, Paganini also worked very, very hard, and he loved music. He really had a passion for it. So it was really a combination of his temperament coming together with his genetic endowment to make him such a great musician. It was his genes and his environment working together, sort of a perfect storm of traits coming together. And we're really lucky that they came together in one person the way they did. So again, it's a good way to show that, exactly as you said, it's not like there's a gene that makes you exactly who you are besides your profession. It's a lot of things working together, but genes are a very important part of it.
And also with, I guess now they can do tests that may determine a predisposition for certain types of illnesses or diseases, but maybe if you have that in your DNA, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get that disease. You can control that, diet, exercise, and other things. So I guess that's a similar way to look at it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people get sort of nervous when you talk about doing genetic testing because they think they're going to find out, that they're inevitably going to get a disease or something like that. But the more we find out about genes and DNA, the more we realize that's not actually how they work. There are genetic influences or susceptibilities to diseases, clearly. But it is just an influence. It's not like you're getting condemned or sentenced to develop the disease inevitably. You do have some wiggle room there, and you can control your susceptibility through things like you said, diet, exercise, things like that. So while we're finding out there's a lot of influences on behavior, personality, things like that, we're also finding out that, again, they're not rigidly dictating who we are.
You talk in the book, and you got a lot of great pictures and chapters in there, but just we have a minute or so left. I wanted to ask you about the whole cloning thing. I think you had a picture of a sheep in there, and cloning, you don't hear as much about it anymore as you did a few years ago, but can people or animals actually be cloned? Does that work? I mean, DNA has a lot to do with that. Have they perfected that yet, or has that gone by the wayside?
Well, basically, you're copying one creature's DNA into another egg and growing an identical DNA copy. It's actually harder to clone humans, or it would be harder to clone humans than other animals for some technical reasons having to do with what's inside the cell. But honestly, as I explained in the book, I don't think that there really would be much of a demand for cloning, even if we perfected it, because, again, your environment really helps determine who you are. You're as much, a lot of who you are is your memories, things like that. And if you clone a person, they're not going to get the same memories you have. They're not going to be the same person. And in fact, they'd probably be even less alike than identical twins were. We've all known identical twins who, they look alike, but they do look distinct. They even have different personalities. And I really think a cloned person would be less alike because they'd be growing up during a different generation, have different memories, friends, environment, things around them. So, again, even if we do get to the point where we can clone, I'm not sure that people would really be all that interested in it.
Yeah, same physical body maybe, but like you said, experiences and all that, different time frame, that changes the person there. So I just thought it was interesting because a few years ago that was kind of the big thing. Oh, we're going to have cloned animals, cloned people, but don't hear much about it anymore. Well, it's a fascinating topic. We've been talking with Sam Kean today, author of the new book called The Violinist's Thumb. And Sam, give out a website if you would. People can get a hold of the book or get a hold of you if they like.
Yeah, they can find the book at their local bookstore or online, and they can read an excerpt of it at samkean.com, just SAMKEAN.com, or just look up The Violinist's Thumb.
Great. Sam, pleasure to talk to you for a few minutes. Good luck again with the book. Congratulations, and we'll talk to you again down the road. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thank you much.